Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Silver's late breakout attempt fails. Let's explore. For a brief moment, silver peaked at around $23.50 in the ask price, and it was earlier this morning when it just kind of spiked up for a noticeable amount of time, but fairly brief. It's still on the charts that you can see if you look at Kitco's charts, but it is interesting to see now silver has fallen back a bit. It has kind of met resistance there. It kind of met a little resistance there at $23.15. And that is kind of where it's seeing it starting to bounce back in a consolidation pattern. And it is something to witness here. I think in many ways, silver wants to break out and come out ahead and maybe push and maybe test at $24, but it may not happen this year. It has been a wild year indeed for silver. But there's some optimism, and some analysts and other analysts that predict a pessimism for silver heading into 2022. But there's an article I'm going to be referencing here from ETF Trends that talks about some of the views on silver. They say that silver is a hybrid. It's a precious metal with a role as an inflation hedge, but it's also an industrial metal that has a lot of different applications. And this is from Ned Davis Research, and we'll see that maintained. Silver made a multi-year low in 2020, March of that year specifically, and as much as it's been weak recently, it's still above the 2014 and 2019 lows, and it's making higher lows. And that is the takeaway that I think we should go away with in this message, and that is that silver is still trading higher than it was pre-pandemic levels. Now, your response to that will be, well, of course it should be, considering inflation and all of what's going on. It should be a lot higher, and I do agree with that. It should be a lot higher. But nonetheless, I believe that there is a level of resistance that we are in, and these higher lows are going to fare well for silver as a wealth preservation tool. Now, wealth preservation is something that silver is not really known for the last couple of years here. But remember, we must think long term, more than a year, sometimes even more than 2 years. And it all depends on how you buy this metal. If you were to buy a generic silver round this year, you're still paying a fairly high premium for it, but you are paying less of a premium than you are for American Silver Eagle, which has the highest premium of the bullion coins that are out there. So that is something to consider, your risk when you make a purchase of silver. But this little breakout attempt that was made is quite interesting. It was shot up there for a brief amount of time, just enough that it's still on the record for the daily movement of silver. And we've seen this kind of thing before, and kind of a pullback, and it makes you wonder what's involved there. I know a lot of people will probably interpret that as manipulation. That could be part of it. Could be other natural market forces at play. But regardless, I don't necessarily want to get into that. It was hit, it spiked up, and then it went right back down. Now it's low on the day, but it's interesting to see this towards the end of the year. We're in the last throes of 2021. And so when we see a spike like that, a late breakout for a brief amount of time and then pull back, it makes you wonder, could this be the beginning of maybe some new activity in the next couple of days and for its rebound to continue? It's interesting. I mean, we saw it go down around September and October, and it's down about, the change is about negative 3% since the beginning of the year. But nonetheless, it is on its way back up if you look at a chart over that course of time. And so we'll see. We got the silver to gold ratio is still below 80 now, so that's actually encouraging to see it kind of make a move upwards. There's optimism in next year as far as silver's view as a hybrid metal in industrial uses and applications. You've heard me talk about this in previous videos that silver will be in greater demand in 2022. And the amount mined as we recover from supply chain issues, that we may see silver become sought after more so than it was in 2021. Because remember, it was the supply chain issues that hampered silver's flow and its demand, and that weighed in on its price in the marketplace. But that could turn around next year. But it may not be as much as some people hope or some of us think it should. And it's something we have to be prepared for. And we also see silver price as its movements may mirror those of gold. Many people feel it presents a better value for investors looking to get into the precious metals exposure. But that value is best measured via the ETF space, via the paper space, because there aren't the premiums that you have in the physical. In the physical space, gold is a better value. So the volatility is there regardless. There's volatility in premiums, and there's volatility in electronic form for silver. Gold to silver ratio is healthier now. It's basically just below 80 to 1, nowhere near the extreme that we saw in March of 2020. Anytime that the ratio has been 80 to 1, silver began to look relatively cheap. If you go all the way back to the middle of the 70s, there's only been a couple of times where silver has been cheaper relative to gold than the roughly 80 to 1 ratio. And I don't know, I mean, it seems like we remember 65 to 1, 60 to 1, 50 to 1. Many people have talked about the mining ratio and the amount of above ground stocks. There's fixed ratios of 15 to 1 that we've seen. The mining ratio is around 8 to 9 to 1. But neither of those should judge as to whether or not what that ratio should be. What it should be is what the market dictates. Right now the market is dictating it at around 78.5 to 1. And I think that is something we should consider here as we wonder what's going to be happening with silver in the coming months. And when we look at it from a technical aspect of it, it does look to be in a recovery mode. Create a bullish reversal pattern. Continued strength into the end of the month could return a luster to silver as we make our way into 2022. But what will that look like? How will that translate? I don't know. As far as the physical space, you have folks in the social media platforms out there that are bullish on silver. No matter what the price, no matter what the move, they're going to keep on buying. And I think that's great as long as they understand what's involved or the risks that take place when you buy silver and holding it. And the only way you can really lose out on silver is if you need to sell it at a loss. There's no need to take a loss in silver if you don't have to. And that is the message that I kind of have been preaching for quite some time. And in the end, it's interesting to see these late couple of days movement in silver's price. And it's a little breakout attempt here as we look at a chart. It was quite interesting to see in late trading here as it spiked up for a brief amount of time. Pretty interesting. About I don't know, maybe an hour or so it spiked up to that $23 and about 50 cents or so. It was very interesting indeed. So where will silver go from here on out? The next couple of days, it'll be interesting. That little breakout pattern may signal a sign of where things are going to go in the coming days as we end out 2021. And my live stream on Sunday, somebody had made mention that they didn't think that gold or silver were going to do much at all, just kind of hang out. And in reality, they did spike up a little bit in late trading in the last couple of days here. So we don't know. We'll find out and see if that continues to be the case as we end out the week and end out the month and end out the year. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below about this little breakout that we saw earlier today. Do you think it means anything or nothing at all? Interesting to talk about nonetheless. I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video, and to encourage you to please rate, please share this video, comment, and subscribe.